Welcome back to Rip and Rock, episode 13. Our schedules have been off, but the Orioles have been on. We're back.
We're back.
Yeah, you're back.
I'm back.
I've been here.
Yeah, this
How's Colorado?
Colorado's great for those that have been following or not following. My sister just got married, so that was a really exciting time. I felt better, but would I do it again? Absolutely. Just that means that we had a very good celebration. And currently, as I'm speaking here, I'm very cozy and comfortable on your couch here, Rock. And there's a chance I could doze off. Maybe you could, do a lullaby for me to get some rest. I'm running on E, folks, but
I'll get the music box out.
Perfect. Yeah, set the tone, set the mood, help with a nice relaxation. But how about them O's, though? Seriously, I would never. My family means the most to me, but I know back here, and I was following Baltimore O's absolute electricity this past weekend.
Yeah, we're gonna break that all down on this episode. A lot to talk about. On national TV, the Birds just shine the brightest on that Sunday night baseball game, and Camden Yards was packed. It is something just great to see, and it gives you a preview of what it could look like come playoff time, if they're there.
Playoffs.
The O's win the season series against the Yankees with that big 9-3 win over New York. Tyler Wells, not demoted to AAA, but the O's sent him down to AA. What that means for Wells, who was, you thought, having an all-star caliber season in that first half. Jordan Westburg removed from last night's game, and that kind of raised some eyebrows for this fan base. People were on hug watch. They were like, is Westy getting traded? Kind of a player's perspective of getting removed from a game during the trade deadline, where your mind is. I'm not saying Westy's going to get moved. I'm not saying he's not, but that's got to be kind of a weird situation for a young guy who knows how good he is and how good he could be in the league. At the deadline, it was the Rangers and Blue Jays making the move so far. Texas is all in. They're all in, like all in for that World Series, and they're adding pieces to do so. So look out for the Texas Rangers. We're going to preview the upcoming series with the Toronto Blue Jays, get into Rip's tips, check out the rest of the league. Can the Orioles catch the Braves? And then we're going to kind of double back to our top songs that bring us back to our childhood, bring back that segment. What do you have on your arm? Is that a Band-Aid?
Yeah, it's a Band-Aid.
It was a string. What do you do?
Distracting. You ever scratch a bug bite too hard? Yes, the answer is yes. Don't look at me that way. So I did that, and then I scratched it again over the weekend, and I couldn't have it going through my nice shirt over the weekend, so Band-Aided up. It's healing nicely. Thanks for noticing. Probably need a new one.
Well, I saw it out of the corner of my eye. I thought that there was like a string on your arm or something, and I just saw something waving, so wasn't sure. You might need to get a new Band-Aid there, bud.
You got one for me?
No, I don't. I might actually have to check the first aid kit or lack thereof I have here in my house. So let's jump into the series with the Yankees. It was so cool to see Camden Yards in the national spotlight, not just on Sunday, back-to-back nights. Saturday night's game was on Fox 45. Shameless plug right there.
Yeah,
Big Fox national TV game. And then the second straight night they're in the national spotlight. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball comes back to Camden Yards for the first time in years. And I saw someone say the announcers got it wrong. I don't know what the ESPN announcer said about Sunday Night Baseball, but I think they said this is the first time we've been here since this year, or Sunday Night Baseball has been broadcast with the Orioles or whatnot, but someone was like, oh no, the Orioles were on the Little League game. That was Sunday Night Baseball, which is factually correct.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's always cool when they're at the home stadium. The lights shine a bit brighter and the players take notice. And it showed in that first inning of Sunday night's game. I mean, they came out 7-run inning. They put up a touchdown and an extra point on the Yankees against Luis Severino, and they beat up on him again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think this is the part of Baltimore, the sports town. This weekend embodied what these fans love, and they love the Baltimore Orioles. And this time coming to town, you have the Yankees, where in years past when the Yanks traveled here, a lot of people felt like they were just going to beat up on the baby birds, and this was going to be their territory. I think the cooler part is that it's the Orioles are the team that is causing the beatdown. And honestly, the series also really reflected how the Orioles have been this season, right? First game, low-scoring affair, to say the least. And I know it had the crazy storms, too, by the way. You know, it looked like the one, I think Melanie Newman had the photo out there. It looked like Batman is having, like, you know, the lights reflecting off. Maybe they're trying to call Batman
it looked
or something.
Like the apocalypse was coming to Baltimore.
Right?
Insane.
But, you know, Grayson Rodriguez had a great outing. Santander, Tony Taters walks it off. Orioles lose game 2. It happens. But then this is why the Orioles have been the best team in the American League. They bounce back, and they don't just bounce back. They just punch the Yanks right in the mouth off the get-go. And my guy, Adam Frazier, 3-run bomb early on. Just awesome to see. And the biggest thing is the fans. You guys being there, that makes all the difference in the world. I'm telling you, this is the time now where the players are going to need you out there, because they are going to feed off of that energy, and they clearly did against the Yanks this weekend.
Dude, did you see the attendance numbers from that series against the Yankees? And if you think that the Orioles players aren't feeding off of that, think again. 34,000 plus the first night on Friday. Then you get 42,829. These are the attendance I'm reading from ESPN.
Right.
That second night. And then the third night, 37,429 were in attendance at Camden Yards. And that's big. And it's the biggest attendance that the Orioles got, I think, for a 3-game series on average in a very, very long time.
I mean, that's the thing, is that clearly fans want to come see a good product. And who doesn't get excited about primetime games, right? Like when you're being broadcasted nationally and it's against your longtime division rival, like, hell yeah, I want to be a part of that and to see that. But we know, it's the reality, attendance has still been a struggle for the team. So it was awesome to see, especially with how good the Orioles are playing. And yeah, I mean, people might have all these thoughts, or we will get more into like deadline and moves and all this. Fact of the matter is, the Orioles are the best team in the American League. You want to talk about exciting, the product, the energy, that team is just embodying all of that right now. And it's props to the fans, though, coming out for this one. But keep that in mind, that energy, because next time the Orioles are in town, they got a lot of tough games remaining at home, including, not to leave anybody out, but the next home series is against the Houston Astros.
Yeah, and that should be a big one as well. Let me dive into these numbers, though, real quick. 114,816 fans in attendance for the Yankees-Orioles game this weekend. Most at Camden Yards throughout a 3-game series since July 2016 versus the Angels. It was the most fans in Baltimore for a 3-game Yankee series since 2014. And that was from Jacob Calvin Meyer, who is the Orioles reporter for the Baltimore Sun. He does some good work, really good work. So it's putting those numbers out and looking at that. I mean, you could tell that place was packed. You're getting a preview of what it could be. The hype around this team, it's not going away. John Smoltz said that he's watched this team for 10 straight games, and he really, truly believes that they could, I don't know if it was go to or win the World Series, but I got to check that out. But for a Hall of Fame pitcher to say that about a team that has seen so much losing over the years, I mean, that's got to put a smile on the face of these fans. I've now watched the Orioles for 10 straight games, 10 straight days. I'm convinced they are good enough to win the World Series. That was Smoltz. Glenn Clark tweeted that out. I think Smoltz had to have been like on their show.
Yeah, he was on. He won with Glenn Clark Radio.
Yeah, so Smoltz said that on Glenn Clark Radio. I wanted to, I'm not pulling that out of my know what. Like,
Glenn Clark tweeted
that out.
Yeah, well, thank goodness you aren't doing that. But the other part is Smoltz talked about Grayson. I think this was a conversation. Just want to same thing with Glenn Clark. Shout out Glenn. Hope you're doing well, by the way. But Smoltz was oozing, or was drooling, was his words about Grayson Rodriguez. Every time he pitches, the sky's the limit. It doesn't look like he's really throwing max effort. And this is kind of what we talked about, right? The stuff that Grayson has, just because he got sent down, did not change anything about what his potential could be at the big league level. And since he's come back up, Grayson has looked extremely well. And the biggest thing is it's the command of his fastball and using that as a weapon. We saw that, the Orioles obviously added Fujinami from the A's, a guy that throws hard in the hundreds. You forget Grayson Rodriguez as a starter is right around 100 consistently. And that, to me, is a weapon to use. You look at some of the best pitchers in baseball, I look at them. Scherzer, who obviously just got moved, we'll get into that. Justin Verlander, DeGrom, when he was healthy, those guys had plus fastballs, and they knew how to locate them and pitch that. They used it to their advantage. Grayson has that ability to use his fastball like that and to be effective, and clearly he was against the Yanks this past weekend. I mean, this O's team, we got to stop looking at, of all the reasons, I feel like everyone wants to get validated. I'm glad the Orioles are getting attention, Rock, but haven't we been saying this for a while? And I try not to fluff people, by the way. Like, I'm not going to tell you something to make you feel better, but I want to be realistic. And the realistic thing right now for the Baltimore Orioles, they are as confident as any team in baseball. They have beaten anybody in baseball. And they are right on the cusp of accomplishing what they want to do, and that is to be the number one seed and winning the American League East going into the postseason. That all their goals are ahead of them, which is something that if you asked every expert out there to start this season, they probably have thought you're crazy. But here we are.
No, absolutely. And we talked about Grayson getting that reset, getting his confidence back, getting his swagger back. And the hope is that that's really going to be the case for Tyler Wells as well. And we're getting into Wells. Pre-All-Star break, you thought he was going to be the O's All-Star. They ended up having 4 All-Stars. Mm-hmm. Wells was not one of them. And I feel like he kind of felt like he got snubbed with the season he was having.
For sure.
People in Birdland may have felt like he got snubbed. Realistically, you can only send so many guys to the All-Star game, and only so many spots are available in the American League. Wells, before the All-Star break, 3.18 ERA. And his wins and losses were, he was 7-4 with that 3.18 ERA. Post All-Star break, 0-2, and his ERA is 11. What's going on with Tyler Wells? The O's, for those of you that didn't catch that news, they didn't just demote Wells to AAA, which is kind of a normal thing to do if a guy's struggling. They put him down in AA. Buoy. This is like a hard reset. Like your Xbox or computer gets like the red ring of death, and you just like unplug it, hit that button, do whatever you got to do to get it back and running. And that's what the O's, I feel like, are doing with Tyler Wells. I don't know if he's just gassed. I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know what's going on with him right now, but I feel like he needs this. And to start in AA, yeah, it might seem like it's a slap in the face at first, but I really don't think it is. I think they're trying to get their guy back to where they feel like he can be going forward in the season. Because if they don't trade for an arm at the deadline, if they don't bring someone else in, they're going to need Tyler Wells for a playoff run for sure when he comes back up.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, too, and maybe this is where I can put my player hat on and to give people behind the scenes of what this really entails, right? And bear with me, I'm just learning how baseball works in my life. I've only been around it for 30 years now.
Humble brag.
But also maybe that's saying that I'm 30. But
old brag. Happy birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
Oh yeah, we didn't get to wish you a happy birthday, did you? On this,
we don't have to do that.
We did it for me. You didn't end up in the emergency room.
We can do that. Yeah. Well, not yet. No. But now the odds are out there. Vegas is going to put the odds out if I can keep my hair till I'm 40. So,
well, that might be a tough one for both of us.
It's a tough ask.
It's like the both of our hairlines, it's like Chris Berman, back. It's like my buddy used to say my hairline's backpedaling like Deion Sanders on a, on a passing route. Like he's covering the receiver. That's my hairline is just going back like Deion trying to cover a wide out. So I've gotten the jokes. I've gotten the 6-head jokes, 5-head, not the 4-head. Someone could land up playing on my forehead. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
We're human beings, people. You know what?
Hey, I was told bald is beautiful, but
don't go bald.
But we're not going bald.
We're not going bald yet, buddy.
Just stay and wait. But yes, thank you. But
Continue
my point
on
was,
Tyler Wells.
Yeah, we got our little tangents over now. But back to the point of what I was trying to make a joke of is that I've just been around the game for a while, and my honest perspective of what's going on here. Wells has now pitched the most innings he's ever pitched in the big leagues. He's had a lot of injuries over his career of trying to battle back. So right now he's at 113 innings, and I think I told you this before we got on here. Last year, his season total was 103 and 2/3 innings, so let's just round up to 104. He pitched 57 innings back in 2021. So you're looking at 160 innings combined within 2 years for Tyler Wells, and now you're at almost 114 innings alone this season. And they've had him do multiple roles in the past, coming out of the bullpen, being a starter. And it just seems to me right now that the fatigue is starting to set in more with Tyler Wells. Because I'm just going to be honest here with everyone. This isn't something that we've seen players go through, quote unquote, slumps as far as they're going to go through their times. But the bigger part for Tyler, and it was coming out of this All-Star break, going 2 innings, 4 1/3, 2 2/3. It's the longevity for him has now been what they're trying to figure out. I think the Orioles are realizing, and this I think was the plan all along, was there was going to be a point this season where they're going to limit his innings, and they thought this was the right time to do it. Grayson was coming up. They could feel that he was being a little bit more tired. And the reason why they chose Bowie and not Norfolk, to me, is to keep him closer to Baltimore, is that he can get his work in. Almost if you take it like a rehab assignment is how I'm feeling and how I'm looking at it. Because if he was going to go down to Norfolk and pitch there, that's really trying to get quote unquote, like fully get right. I think for this one, it's going to just be a reset, try to get him ready because he's going to be back with the team. He's been up until the last 3 starts. He was their best pitcher for the duration of the season, just Mr. Consistent. But now having said that, now he's going to have to try to readjust because it doesn't look like they can count on Tyler to go the 5-6 innings he's gone so far this season, but they are going to need other arms, and that is also going to affect their possibly what they do with the bullpen.
Just looking at the pre-All-Star, like you said, innings-wise, like he's gassed 104.2 innings pitched before the All-Star break. He's pitched 9 innings after the All-Star break, and he might have like rubber arm right now. He might just he needs to find his groove back, get that swagger back like Grayson did. I know they're 2 completely different pitchers at 2 complete different stages in their careers. But for Tyler Wells right now, going back to the minor leagues, I don't think that's going to be the worst case scenario for him. I think he's going to come back up a better guy, better pitcher. We're talking about the baseball player, not human being, but better pitcher on the field, and helping this team win ball games when it counts. So hopefully he can get his swagger back as well, like Grayson did.
And to explain this really quickly, from May 29th until his start against the Dodgers on July 18th, Tyler Wells had allowed 2 runs or less in every single start and had gone more than 5 innings. Actually, the first time he didn't go 5 innings was against that Dodgers team, and he's had 3 straight outings where he's failed to reach 5 innings. So, Birdland, stick with it, but this could be part of the plan, and we're going to get into the trade deadline. But this is something where some of the Orioles pitchers were getting to their limit. But Tyler Wells, what he's done so far this year, I don't look at it as fully. It stinks because you want to be up there for the competitor in you wants you to be up there. And I think there was a moment in the Rays series when Hyder wanted to take out Wells, and he was ticked off about that. That's the competitor. You want to be out there for as long as you can to help your team. But in the long picture, making sure that he can be effective and efficient when the Orioles need him down the stretch.
So this was a move that kind of raised some eyebrows last night because Birdland was like, oh no, it's happening. And anytime you see a tweet like this or a move like this right around the trade deadline, you're always going to assume the worst.
Mm-hmm.
But it just simply wasn't the case. Or so we think. At least that's what Brandon Hyde is telling reporters. So Jordan Westberg gets removed from last night's game. We're recording this one. It's different. We're recording this on a Monday. So hopefully there's no moves happening right now, or maybe there is, and we can jump right in and talk about it. But Jordan Westberg gets removed from the game for Adam Frazier. Basically, I saw Birdland follow a few fans out there, and they were like, someone needs to be on hug watch right now, seeing if Westy's hugging any of his teammates or there are tears or anything like that. Because when a guy gets removed from a game, especially a young guy, one of the top prospects in the organization, and the team is in a playoff hunt, they're in contention, you're like, okay, is he on the move? What is happening here? And if you're Jordan Westberg, what's going through your mind at that point in time? Because Brandon Hyde made it clear, and he told reporters, this is Luke Jones I'm reading from right now, said Jordan Westberg's removal was about strengthening the outfield defense by inserting Ryan McKenna and moving Adam Frazier to second base. Westberg was in the Orioles clubhouse and packing for the trip to Toronto after the game. So that's good news. Doesn't seem like Westberg's going anywhere. But if you're Jordan Westberg, you get removed from a game, you're probably thinking, what's going on here? Because you really, truly never know. Baseball's a business, and you can see the top prospects get moved for starting pitching, relief pitching, big-name players at any given time during the season, pre-trade deadline. So I didn't know. I wasn't sure that Jordan Westberg was safe.
I feel like a lot of tweets, too, people are really keeping an eye out for that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you read online and go, oh, this person got taken out. Even at the lower levels in the minor leagues, I've seen tweets about players, so-and-so's removed from the game. What does that mean? Even when Jackson Holliday got scratched because of illness, people were like, no way. No way he's going to get traded, because it's in people's minds. You're right. It's a time of year where higher prospects, top prospects, that's in the back of their minds. And now for the Orioles, at least for this case, we've seen that they probably feel like they make as many replacements in the lineup as anybody in baseball. As far as defensive substitutions, pinch hitting, you name it, I feel like they've been pretty consistent with that. But having said that, this is where we're going to see a little bit of it, and there's only, we're running out of time on the deadline. But it is a weird feeling in the clubhouse and dugouts, especially. I remember back when I was playing, and the Orioles, I've had it on both scenarios where I had guys that were worried about the Orioles selling and new players coming in to take over spots, and on the other side of it, the Orioles are going to try to make a move to help the team, but wait, who's going to be a part of that? And also with the Nationals as well. So it happens. It's a part of the game. Like you said, it is a business, and I'm glad Westy's not. I think that they love him. They wanted to see him there. And I've told people this for a while. I'm sure you have a nice segue for this, Rock. But the Orioles really like a lot of their guys, and they're doing so many things well that they might not be making all these crazy moves like, say, another team in the American League right now.
Yes. Before we segue into that, I just wanted to, I don't want to screw up the segue or, divert and go a different route. But if we're talking and anything can happen over the next 24 or so for, 30, I don't know. I'm really bad at math.
Before the deadline.
Yeah, before the deadline happens. Exactly. But if we're going to go through, we're not going to go through every single player on the roster, but top players and prospect-wise, we're going to play a little game here. We're going to add this in. Off limits or fair game.
Oh.
So it's Orioles guys that they wouldn't trade. There's no chance in hell that they would trade them. Or players that maybe are up in the air. So I'm going to try to rattle off a couple names here. So Gunnar Henderson.
Off limits.
Absolutely off limits. And we both agree on that. Adley Rutschman.
Off limits.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys. How about this one? Grayson Rodriguez.
Off limits.
Yep. Figured that too. Jackson Holliday.
Off limits.
Okay, now we're going to tap into Colton Cowser.
What was the other term?
Off limits or fair game?
Fair game.
For a trade.
Fair game. and it's only because of their. I love Cowser. They love Cowser. But if we're looking at the untouchables for me with their team, I think that he isn't necessarily looped into that for them right now. And that's crazy because he is a talented player, but it just kind of shows, it's making me think a lot. I think he's a very intriguing chip for a lot of people.
So we got into Cowser. All right, Jordan Westberg.
I think he's off limits.
Okay.
I think that they like him more. There's another guy similar to him that I think is fair game, though. Do you want to guess or do you want to keep going?
We can go. Do you want me to guess?
Oh, yeah. You know what?
Is he up with the big league club?
He's not.
Is it Joey Ortiz?
It is Joey Ortiz. It's one or the other in my mind for those guys.
I would agree with that.
And personally, just from how it's been so far, they clearly feel that they're prioritizing Jordan Westberg. So to me, that shows that they want to keep him, and that makes Ortiz more fair game.
So I know he's hurt right now, but Cedric Mullins.
Off limits.
Okay. Ryan Mountcastle.
Fair game. You know, but I will say this, and I want people to understand, I actually think that the Orioles aren't going to really trade any of these guys this year. I think unless there's a starting pitcher that we don't know about down the stretch here, I don't think we're going to see a lot of these guys move this year. Off season, we'll get back to it. But you got to realize, as soon as Cedric and Hicks went down, the lineups where it's like, well, where is certain guys going to fit? Well, now that those guys are hurt still, guys like Ryan Mountcastle are going to have more and more opportunities. And I still I love Mountie. I love his bat. He's a great guy. He's going to have more opportunities again. Yeah. It's the guy that when everyone comes back, Brian McKenna's the guy that's going to be the odd man out.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I wanted to play that game with you and kind of see
Can we do one more?
Go ahead.
Kobe Mayo off limits.
Kobe Mayo's off limits.
Heston Kjerstad off limits.
Okay. I was going to get to those.
Sorry.
Yep. All right. That's fair.
Everyone else though. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying the reason why I wanted to do this is I wouldn't trade Adley or Gunnar for anything, and that's not going to happen. It's just not realistic. I would have off limits for those two guys, and even Grayson. It's not even the word. It's untouchable, I would say, for those three guys. But you think about some of the vets, even some of the prospects, and some of the young guys that are up with the team. You think what could you get for them? Could you make the roster better than it is right now if you kind of move some of those guys? It'll be interesting to see what the O's do. I'm really interested to see who they go after because they've been as quiet as a mouse aside from the Shintaro Fujinami trade. Mike Elias the wheels are turning in his head. And you saw him on the broadcast with ESPN on Sunday Night Baseball. It was him, John Angelos were just sitting next to standing next to each other. And they were figuring out all right, what are we doing here? They could have just been having a conversation, but when two guys are sitting there right next to each other, when do you see them on a broadcast next to each other? I'm not sure I do. You see Elias kind of doing his thing. Sometimes you'll see Angelos, but they're trying to figure out what they want to do. And I'm sure Angelos is there for, all right, if we want to make a move, can we open the books up a little bit? And can we pay this guy? How much are we willing to spend?
Yeah.
Who are we willing to go after? Whose contract? How much of their contract are we willing to take on? Those are the questions that Mike Elias could be asking. Obviously, all hypotheticals. I don't know what was being said, but you have to think those topics were brought up in that moment because they're both on their phones. They're both checking whatever, who knows? I'm sure it's not grocery lists.
No.
It's a grocery. It's a shopping list of who which players can we bring in to help this team be the best it can be.
Oh, yeah. And well, the other thing too, it's for people that want to know too. If you're a GM of a team, by the way, president of operations, you never are off the clock, even in the off season. You are going, but right now this is where every moment's tense because you are going through every single scenario possible. And one thing Mike Elias has to navigate is, yes, who's available and for what price, and then how much is the checkbook going to be open to bring a guy on? Like, all those things are factors, and you got to get approval. Having said that, there is a certain concept, I think we can all relate to this, where you can't quantify it, but chemistry for a team and confidence. You want to make sure whoever you're bringing in is not going to change that. So, like, I think like a veteran guy that's been around for a while, like a Justin Verlander, probably wouldn't change anything unless the guys you give up are already on that big league team. I don't think whatever the construction you have up there is working. And people could say, well, can it last that long? They're the best team in the American League. You know what I mean? Like, other teams that made moves, they're trying to stay up with it right now. The Orioles, everything is working.
And it's about to be August, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're not talking like June baseball anymore. We're not talking the beginning of the season. Like, the Orioles are contenders, and if you don't believe that, you're sadly mistaken. Like, they are one of the best teams in baseball by far right now. And whether you don't think they have enough star power or enough starting pitching, they're getting this done with what they have, and there's been no drop-off at all. There's been no drop-off, man. They're just continuing to rise.
ERA-wise, from their starting pitching staff, over the last month or two, they've been one of the top in baseball. And yes, of course, like, if you had a top-tier, bona fide ace that's been there, and just mentioned Verlander's name because he's, still out there, yeah, like, of course that's going to make your team better. But again, we've talked about this, your development of your players and where you sit right now, you're in a great position. Yes, you obviously would want some more help, but give these guys credit. Give this team credit. They're doing a tremendous job. And all you can ask yourself is, now, when you get towards the postseason play, are you playing still with that same confidence? And that's not going to matter. Yes, you want to have the, guys feeling good and going to the playoffs, but you want your team as a whole collectively to be feeling confident going to the playoffs.
Rob Bradford of Odyssey Sports. I think that's how you say it, right? Odyssey?
Odyssey, yep.
Yeah. I always used to think it was Audacity Sports.
The Audacity.
Yeah. Rob Bradford of Odyssey Sports said some of the teams that have shown the most interest in Rich Hill, he's reporting that they're the Marlins, the Reds, the Braves, and the Orioles. So that's another name to keep an eye out for. Verlander's one. He's one. There are a lot of other guys out there as well, but the pool of good starting pitchers is not fizzling out, but it's getting more and more shallow as the days go on. Like, it's not as deep as it was anymore because Lucas Giolito goes to the Angels, and then the Rangers, we talked about it. Dude, they're all in. They're all in, and they're making the moves to be all in. So the Rangers, they go out and trade for Max Scherzer, and honestly, like, while Scherzer's not having one of his best seasons by any means, you'd still call this a blockbuster deal.
Oh, no doubt.
Because of the name, because of who Max Scherzer is and what he can bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So the Rangers not only go out and get Max Scherzer, they added another 2 arms as well, one to the starting rotation and one to the bullpen. So the Rangers, they seem like they're all in right now. They get Jordan Montgomery, and they also got who else did they end up getting from the? They got
Chris Stratton.
Chris Stratton, yes. So I knew I was missing one. So they get Jordan Montgomery, Chris Stratton, and then the Blue Jays, they finalized a deal to get Jordan Hicks from the Cardinals because Jordan Romano, he's on the injured list. So right now, there are teams in the AL making big moves. And they're not like little splashes, like like deadline, we're gonna go out and get, the third or fourth best pitcher on a team. Like, these teams are all in and they're showing it. And that could be the difference come playoff time. Starting rotation, we always see it in October. How deep can your starting rotation go? How many innings can they throw for you? Are they going to get beat up early on? Because offensively, like, the O's can compete with anyone in the league.
Yep.
Starting pitching wise, when it comes to playoff baseball, right now, I don't know if they have the rotation to win a World Series. Now, I hope I'm wrong,
Mm-hmm.
and I very well could be, but I do think they need another arm to get there and win it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is I don't disagree that you need to have that the Orioles, if they had another, like I said, that full ace, that veteran, because a lot of these Orioles pitchers, as a collective unit, they don't have a lot of playoff experience. This whole team doesn't, because of the fact that they're so young. Their core is so young. So how are you going to handle those types of moments? I think that they can handle them well. But to your point, it does give people credit when you're having guys go out there and play and are able to understand what it takes in those moments. And it's not that those guys don't. Like, you can tell, like we can talk about right now, like we know what it takes, but until you walk the walk in that situation, that's where you get the most experience from it. But when we look around also, if you look at that AL West, by the way, Rangers, Astros, now the Angels are 5 games back in that division. Like, the Rangers are trying to hold on for dear life.
Yeah.
In the AL East, the Blue Jays are trying to push back. But if I'm being honest, the Red Sox and Yankees, it's going to be very challenging for them to catch up. If they come back from 8 games back, 9 games back to win the division, it's a pretty big collapse from the 3 teams in front of them, right? But the Orioles right now, I think we talked about it, if they even fell off too, the Orioles have like an 8-game advantage on the final wild card, or 9-game advantage on the final wild card spot. Confidence matters, and I think for Elias too, there is this, and people aren't going to like this, but look with how well these young players have developed. And the only thing I'm going to say is that if they make a move and it could hinder some of that development for young players, that is the only thing that worries me for this team for the long term, because I really think the Orioles have pieces on their team and in their system that can be long-term solutions, and not just, solid players, all-star caliber that can help lead this team for hopefully the next decade. Should be fun. Should be a lot of fun.
It should be. I'm still interested to see like what they end up doing and what moves they end up making, if any. There's a chance they don't make any. There's a chance that it does take 2 to tango, and that's kind of what Mike Elias alluded to when he was talking about, it was a couple days ago. He's like, listen, the biggest thing that they're looking for is, it's obvious, is pitching. Like, they're gonna go after starter or reliever, and they probably want both. But it does take 2 to tango.
Value. They love value.
They do love value.
And if the
they want to get the best bang for their buck.
And if they thought the value for a high-end starter was there, they'll do it. But if they don't think the value's there, they're not going to. They thought the value was there for Fujinami, they took it. So these are all things.
That's a low risk, high reward move, by the way. And he's just showing flashes of how good he can be.
His last couple outings, right? He's shown that he can go multiple innings, and he can bring it. His stuff is elite. So this is what the Orioles are doing right now, finding elite talent. We're going to find out if they're going to go out there and go and get an elite bona fide superstar. I don't believe it offensively, but pitching, the biggest thing I'm going to say is value.
And if you think that doesn't boost your confidence going from one of the worst teams in the league to one of the best, it's like going into work every day. If you hate your job, you're going to be miserable and your performance is going to show.
Mm-hmm.
If you love your job, you're going to be happy and your performance is going to show. It's like you perform better when you're in an environment that you enjoy and you want to be at. I'm not saying, like he took days off and mentally and physically because he was with Oakland, but I really do think that your performance is definitely a product of your environment. And if you're at the highest point and you feel like you're on top of the mountain, then hey man, your performance is going to show for sure. I think that's what you're getting with Fuji right now.
Oh yeah, and for sure. You ever play on a bad team and you know it's terrible and you're just hoping to get through the season?
Bears, yeah.
But your job's still on the line and you feel terrible. You go to a team that's winning and everything just opens back up for you.
Changes
it
for you.
It does.
And that's happened with a lot of guys with the O's too that they've brought in. So,
all
right, we're looking at this series against Toronto. It's a 4-game swing, 4-game series. Hopefully it's not a 4-game swing for because that would be, Toronto's 5.5 games back right now. So this is a big series for them. And they're looking at it like, okay, like we have a chance to close the gap with the Orioles and maybe move into second place in the AL East and jump the Rays with this. So the O's have still yet to get swept. I don't see that happening. Obviously, knock on wood. But they head to Canada, 4-game series with the Blue Jays. Kyle Gibson, the probable pitcher for that first game against Chris Bassett. And then you got Grayson against Kikuchi. You have, I don't know now, against Gosman. And then sorry. I missed one. Bradish against Ryu for that second game. Rodriguez, Kikuchi, and then blank because Wells against Gosman. So,
this series is going to get very interesting. We ran through I brought up last time of the Orioles they're leading it, and you have the Red Sox and Yanks where it feels hard to maybe catch. The Blue Jays are right there on the cusp of making this late season push to try to get right back towards the top, or they're going to stay stuck where they are. And the Orioles now are finishing up their stretch of they finally, after the series, are going to play the Mets, a team with a losing record when they play in the series. But the Blue Jays, yes, the Orioles have played well against them this year so far.
5 of 6 they've won.
Yep. But
5 of 6, and this is a big 4-game series, man.
And think about it. This is something, if the Orioles can come out, in my mind, if the Orioles win this series, if they took 3 or 4, this will knock the Blue Jays out of trying a chance to win the division and catch the Orioles too. Again, this is me thinking that the Orioles are going to keep doing their thing, but this is one for the Blue Jays where we're going to find out, are they going to make this even tighter and make it very stressful, exhilarating, and nerve-wracking down the stretch? Or are the Orioles going to keep their MO of just keeping teams at bay and continuing their march towards, an American League East division title?
I mean, yeah, I completely agree, man. And it's definitely a big one. And they play the Blue Jays one more time after this 4-game series, and it's a 3-game series at home, August 22nd to the 24th. So, like you said, this could do it. This could be the final blow as far as the Blue Jays having any shot of winning the AL East if the Orioles take 3 or 4 and do win this series.
Well, it puts pressure on it. And it's not saying, we've seen it before. I mean, I think it was the Phillies. I know the Phillies back in, whatever it was, where they overcame like an 8 or 9 game deficit with like a little over a month to go in the season to come back to win the division on like the final day of the season that year. I forget which year it was. But like this stuff matters. There's gonna be a lot of great pitching matchups. I mean, you mentioned at the end of it, Gosman, former Oriole, who is really one of the best pitchers in the league. He's got wipeout stuff. And then obviously Kyle Bradish is going for the O's. Gibson's that veteran presence. But this Blue Jays team, there's a reason why that they were chosen by many. And I'm sorry, O's fans. I thought that the Blue Jays would be the team on top of the division right now, like, preseason. They got a talented lineup too.
It was 07 for the Phillies.
07. That was
when they won it on the final day, right? When they won it against the Nationals.
On the final day. I remember watching that. Talk about a meltdown from the Mets. But anyway, the Blue Jays here, really talented team. You don't want to give them that belief and confidence that because they feel like they're right outside the door and they're trying to knock and try to, break it down. And you got a lot of good players in their lineup that, you saw on display, obviously, or, got attention during the Home Run Derby, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette. This team can be very dangerous. So this is, for me, the one that I've had circled for a while, besides that Rays one, but this one in particular. The Orioles have been one of the best teams on the road. That's been documented. Can you do it another time here? 4 times up in Canada.
Speaking of which, it was really fun to see them on the road. I went up to PA for my dad's birthday. Took him to the O's Phillies game, Citizens Bank Park, and I told him, I was like, I can't wait to hear the national anthem because there's so many O's fans here, and to hear the big O during that, it was the Tuesday night game where the Phillies ended up walking it off, which was not the result that O's fans would have hoped for, but it was really cool to see that fan base just travel because they're, 2 hours away, 1:45 from the ballparks. And talk about traveling, success on the road. Like, the fan base is playing a huge factor in that as well. So You saw it in Tampa. You saw it in Philly. O's fans are, they're traveling in packs. Really cool to see.
Oh, yeah. The two passionate fan bases there, by the way. Phil's and O's.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you're talking about passion, like, look no further. All right, man, let's get into Rip's tips. I have no clue what you got for me today.
Well, that's great because it's about actually the unknown. And the tip is it's okay with there being an unknown and not knowing what that is. And so I think for everyone, safe to say, people feel better when you have a plan and you know what's going on. Some people really are better with no plans. But the thought of not knowing what's going to happen next drives a lot of anxiety, drives a lot of fear, stress. Personally, I always try to relate it to sports and personally. So I'll start personally for me. I didn't know what was going to happen for me getting close to baseball coming to an end. And actually at the end of the 2021 season and kind of having a feeling I was battling through the injury, wasn't having a great year statistically of thinking this might be it. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And so I had surgery in the off season, was waiting to see if someone would be interested. And that the right opportunity never came about. There was a few opportunities to maybe play outside of the U.S. or do independent baseball or just to wait and see. And just didn't seem what my heart told me it's not what I wanted to do and made the decision to move on. It was the right time. And now I jumped in a media world at the time. I had no idea what was going to happen.
Dude, I remember like when you retired, and I remember because I didn't know you at the time. I came here and I didn't know, and like I saw it speaking. Like, yeah, I know I interrupted you, but
no, I'm putting up my hand
when you hopped on social media, I was like, Ryan Ripken. I was like, he just announced he's going to retire. And then that's when I was like, when you hopped on, I followed you, you followed me back, and like, here we are. So it's kind of funny, like how it happened. And like, now we're doing this podcast, but like.
So that's why I put my hand up in the air. Wasn't for, I was like, that was the point, right?
Yeah, so you never know.
Yeah. Like, and now we're stuck together right now. So it's like, you never know how that's going to happen. But so the point being, I had no idea what to expect. Didn't know if it was going to be TV, anything with radio. Like I had ideas of certain stuff. And people still ask me today, like, hey, Ryan, what do you really want to do? I'm like, I don't even know what exact role I want to do right now. I've gotten more comfortable with that unknown of saying, you know what? There's things that I like.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. And I'm okay with knowing that I don't know what's going to happen, but I believe I'll be successful. But it is scary, right? It's scary not knowing what's going to happen for the next step. And for sports wise, we're looking at all these things, with it's funny just around the trade deadline. There's so many unknowns. And for players, for organizations, for fans, you're onto this hope and you're praying that things work out the way you want them to work out. The reality is it might not. And that's out of your control. And you just got to have a little bit of faith that things are going to move in the right direction and things are going to happen. Because if you start stressing yourself and start putting added pressure, you're only going to find yourself more miserable. You're going to play the what if game a lot. And hey, it's fun to play sometimes, but it's fun to entertain and play the game, but you never feel good after it. Personally, I feel like I'm more in a pretzel after I play that game. So whatever happens here with the Orioles and the deadline and what goes on, don't try to stress too much. Keep a little bit of faith. And whatever's going on in your life that's on the unknowns, realize you keep the path. Don't overthink it. Continue to be you. And I promise, more times than not, when you get to that point, you'll be all right.
I'll say this, piggybacking off that, Rye. And I called you Rye, not Rock. It was so funny. We got into that. That was a thing. The other week we did our segment on Sports Unlimited. And I say your name really quick. I say Rye. All right, Rye. And it sounds like sometimes I'm saying Rock. So our producer, Hannah, was like, did you hear how you just tagged out of that thing? She's like, you called him Rock. I was like, I would never call him my name because that's an insult to him.
It is.
I was like, yeah, it is. Hey, watch your mouth. So I say rye because that's like how I say it. But it was just funny because we had to clear that up. She's like, I don't think you said it like that. I was like, I definitely did. And then I told you, and I'm like, whatever. But I like to, and I'm a big Philly sports fan. Grew up in PA, but my big thing is it's trust the process with the unknown, and that was a Sixers motto. And while the Sixers still haven't won an NBA championship in doing that, I kind of take that motto and take that saying and use it in everyday life, because when I was in Huntsville, my contract was coming up. I didn't have a job, and I wasn't sure. And my news director at the time, Paul Karen, awesome guy, and he's in Myrtle Beach now, and he's a news director there. But he was just like, not a lot of news directors would do this, or GMs would do this. Stan Pylant, WHNT, like, shout out to him, just unbelievable human being. And I came to them and I said, hey, like, I know I'm your sports director now. I don't have a job, but I plan on moving on. And it's not because I don't love this station and I don't love you guys. It's because I want to get closer to home. I miss my family, and I would love to continue this opportunity of doing what I love in a bigger market.
Yeah.
And somewhere with pro sports teams. And they were like, okay, what we're going to do for you, we don't do this for anybody, but since you've been here for 4 years, we like you, you like us, we're going to do this. They gave me an option. It was a 1-year deal with immediate outs. So I worked that in with my contract to top 40 markets. I was confident enough that I could get a job in a top 40 market, and Baltimore happens to be number 28 on that list.
Yeah. 1
being the highest, New York, 2 being the second highest, LA.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to search and get a job offer from Sacramento. And it was a good opportunity, but it wasn't enough money to where I could live out in Sacramento and live comfortably. But the people out there that I talked to were awesome, and I appreciate them for, offering me the job.
Right.
But I ended up here, and it ended up being where I wanted to be, closer to home. I have a place now. I love it here. We're doing this podcast. I love, being at the station, covering the O's, covering the Ravens, love both the fan bases. And it's like, being the unknown, dude, I didn't know where I was going to be in the next month. I thought I might have been in Huntsville until that contract ended, but not knowing is okay sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And for the O's and for, players and teams, and not knowing what's going to happen day after day, it is okay, because sometimes the more you know, the worse off you are.
Yeah.
And it's like, not knowing and just letting life take its course and trusting the process. For you and I both, I really think it's worked out so far.
For sure. And then that's a great way to explain that. So here it is. Like, those are our two. And this is why we do this for the Rips Tips, even though it's, sometimes I might seem a little goofy with all of it, but we do this. Yeah. We do this.
You're just a goofy person in general.
I am a goofy. You guys don't even know. Well, maybe you do. But we do all this because we want everyone to also feel like, yeah, we're talking about baseball, but we're talking about life, and that we are going through a lot of things ourselves personally. We want to try to explain what that journey is ourselves. And we hope whoever listens to this, that this could be moments that maybe can help you in the process and realize that you're not alone with it.
Yeah.
I don't try to get too sentimental here, but that's just the point of it. You're never walking alone as much as you think you are.
No.
So and here we are doing our thing. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, that's Rip's Tips for the week. Just the unknown.
So here's an unknown right now for the O's. And this is just a big hypothetical, but this is something we wanted to talk about. Like, we're looking at the rest of the league right now. Let's just go down quickly, break down what the rest of the league looks like. So you have the O's at the top of the East. We're talking American League right now. You have the Twins at the top of the Central. You have the Rangers at the top of the West. In the National League East, the Braves are the best team in baseball atop the NL East standings. The Reds atop the Central, and the Dodgers atop the West. Overall, how we're looking, let's go 5 best teams in baseball right now. It is the Braves, the Orioles, the Rays, the Dodgers, and the Rangers. And then you have the Blue Jays at 6. So 3 of the AL East teams, best division in baseball by far, are in the top 6. Braves are ahead of the Orioles. O's are 4 games back right now of Atlanta. My question is this, just looking at that, what are your overall thoughts on just where Major League Baseball stands right now, where these teams are, what teams can seriously contend? And the second question being, I mean, we're talking about a team that is 4 games back of the best team in baseball. And the Braves, I firmly believe they have the best roster in baseball, top to bottom. I mean, their roster is just loaded. But can the O's catch the Braves for the best record in all of baseball? Looking at the differential, Rip, like the run differential, the Braves have a whopping plus 151. The Rays have a plus 135, and the Rangers have plus 145. The O's are plus 48, man. They're plus 48 in run differential. They're in some close games. They're not blowing teams out all the time. They had 6-run win over the Yankees, but like, they're in it, dude. They're number 2 in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is after the longest time, you look at these big numbers, it's like, yeah, you want to be able to blow teams out of the water.
Yeah.
But you got to, what's more fascinating to me is the fact that you can have such a low run differential, relatively speaking, and be 23 games over 500. That means that you're finding ways to win in high stress, high intensity situations. Now, all these teams that you just mentioned, the Braves, the Bravos, obviously we're in agreement. I agree with you. Their roster, their team, everything, they really, to me, are the most complete team in baseball. The Dodgers just feel like every single year, here they are, they're up top, they're finding a way, and they're going to continue to do what the Dodgers do. And they have, honestly, to me, that's a lineup, especially in the playoffs, that talk about veteran presence. That lineup's legit. We talked about it when they're in town. Don't sleep on the Giants, though, out there, by the way. The Giants are right knocking on the doorstep. But as far as in the American League East, we know how good these other teams are. And your question about for the Orioles, it'd be really cool. It felt so long ago that this was so far out of reach, right? The fact that the Orioles could have the best record in all of baseball. But here we are. And it's not crazy to think that they could overthrow the Braves for the best record. Maybe, still an uphill battle, but definitely it's not improbable or impossible.
I don't think so either. The Rays are on a 3-game heater right now. The O's just won, just won their last one against the Yankees, and they're looking to kind of build off that as we go into that 4-game series against the Blue Jays, a team they've had so much success against. For the Braves, just taking a look at who they have the Angels coming up tonight, Monday. Tonight, I'm talking about Tuesday and then Wednesday, and they go to Chicago. So they have the Angels at home for a 3-game stint. And Giolito is a probable pitcher to pitch that 3rd game against the Braves in Atlanta. So you're going to kind of get your first look at Giolito in a Angels uniform and see what I'm not saying, okay, the Angels are going to win the World Series, but don't count them out to make a push with the moves they made as well.
I can't get my words out.
Nope.
I know a lot of people were saying about selling Ohtani, not what, why they're not going to re-sign him. You never know. Like, it still doesn't sound like, but if I tell you what, the Angels make a push here, that definitely helps their chances. And right now they went from being sellers to now they're 55 and 51. They're right back in the hunt in the thick of everything. And they just made another big move where they got a couple other players from the Rockies, some bats added to their lineup.
Yeah.
And
their division's tough. The West is filthy too, with the Rangers and the Astros, they're 2 heavy hitters in that division. And then, I mean, the Angels, they made the moves. They could make a push, but it's going to be very tough to win the division with those 2 teams ahead of you.
Oh, for sure. But at least for the wild card right now, they're sitting 4 games out. They're right. And all you have to do is get in to give yourself a chance. And they're giving themselves a chance, especially they weathered part of the storm. Now it's, can they make that final push for the last 2 months? Gosh, this is where baseball gets exciting, folks. Really. You're going to feel all this intensity just completely magnify down the stretch here. But for the Orioles, though, again, can't say enough about what they've been able to accomplish. The Reds, actually, too, to me, is the other really feel-good story. How about that? That young Reds team, they're hanging on just the top of that NL Central right now. And actually, look no further. The Cubbies are now 4 games back. They've battled their way back into it. So besides, honestly, the only division where there is 0 chance of a team catching anybody, it's the Braves, NL East, 11.5. I think safe to say that division's over. But every single division, Orioles and Rays separated by a game and a half. Twins and Guardians, half a game. Rangers and Astros, 1 game. Dodgers, Giants, 2 games. Reds, Brewers, half a game. Buckle up, everyone. Baseball is going to get really, really fun these last 2 months.
Buckle up indeed. Rip, we just hit the hour mark for this episode.
Well,
so let's, last but not least, let's get into our top songs that kind of bring us back to our childhood. We're both 30 now. We're both 90s babies.
90s
born in
babies.
93. Crazy stuff. But like, what are those top songs that bring you back to your childhood? We'll go like top 5.
Well,
We'll go song for song right now.
well, I'll tell you, it just gets me into a mood because just had at the wedding.
Yeah.
Shout
Oh
to
yeah.
me,
Oh, yeah.
And I'm a huge Wedding Crashers fan, by
Shout's
the
a
way.
banger when it comes to weddings.
When so like 05, 04, 05 when Wedding Crashers came out, and that's just one of my favorite movies of all time. And that for me, I need that song, and that can put me on a spot
Yeah.
and just send me to the moon.
Should we just go
in a
top 5
heartbeat.
wedding songs instead? like, I think that would be better off, honestly, at this point.
If you want to, that we can do that. Tis the season, I guess. Wedding
Yeah,
season.
man. You just came back from a wedding. Like, might as well. So, like, Shout's got to be towards the top of the list,
Oh,
right?
Shout's number 1.
Yeah,
for
we're
me.
doing wedding songs. We took an audible.
That's my number
Well,
1.
Shout's up there for me. It's number 1. Number 2 for me is and it's only I'm not gonna put them in order, but a second song for me is Love Tonight by David Guetta. And it's like, all I need is your love tonight. And the
That's
reason
good.
being, we went to my buddy's bachelor party in Miami, and I heard that song for the first time, and I would not stop playing it. Like, we had like probably 10 dudes there, and like I played that song probably just like 20 times in a row, and everyone was getting mad at me. But when we got to the wedding, everyone was like, all right, this song needs to go on because it was stuck in everyone's head. So now when like Ariana, my girlfriend, knows that story. So every time it comes on at a wedding, like she could be like on the other side of like, the wedding venue, like getting food or a drink or something like that. And like, we literally will like lock eyes and like find each other in the dance floor and jam out to that. It's so great. So that's definitely up there. All right. What's 2 for you?
Another one on the list, I'm going to stick kind of with a little old school. I love September, Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
Gets me going. It kind of like gets the event going. I feel like it's one of the earlier songs in the night.
Yeah.
And especially if you have a good band, which there was a good band this past weekend.
Bands at weddings are underrated.
And
Very underrated.
especially really good bands. The band actually this weekend, they mashed together. They had good choreography, but they mashed together Party in the USA, but with Miley Cyrus, with Riding With Me with Nelly. And I had no idea what was happening, but I was all for it. It was so great. But September for me is definitely a song that gets me in my feels.
All right, I'm going to throw another one out there. And this is always great. Like, I don't care what age you are. I don't care if you grew up with this song or you didn't grow up with this song. I Want to Dance with Somebody by Whitney Houston. It's just up there.
Yeah.
When that comes on, it's like, it's game over. It's game over.
That
It's great.
You could really go down the list. Like that, I Want to Dance with Somebody is just iconic. How Will I Know is also really great with Whitney Houston. Gosh, now you're making me think about all different types of one. Where am I? You got another one on me because I'm kind of blanking on a song at the moment.
I'm like looking through lists, like, cause like I have a very bad memory when it comes to this stuff. But like when I see it, I'm like, okay, like
my memory's a little bit blurred from Saturday, but that's for different reasons.
I'll say this one, and O's fans might not like this because it's like a Boston Red Sox song.
I know where you're going.
Sweet
with
Caroline is fire at a wedding. When everyone just goes bop bop bop.
yeah,
yeah, they're jamming out to that. Yeah, that's good.
We had trying to think with if you go like alt songs with I like to boogie oogie, but like good sing along songs are always good. Like Mr. Brightside, Closing Time. Closing Time really can get me in some feels. Bum 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 bum.
How do you feel about the cha-cha slide or the Cupid shuffle? Yay, nay?
I like him. I don't know if I need him at the wedding necessarily, you know? Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
All right,
about
I
that.
got one more, and this is my last one, and it kind of brings me back to my time living in Alabama, going to Crimson Tide games. Mr. Brightside is a really good one too,
Yeah, that's
by the Killers.
that is
Because all I could think of at Bryant-Denny Stadium when it got to a certain point, they had these shakers, like like I don't know if they're necessarily called pom poms, but it's like the shakers like on the stick where
Yeah.
like they look like pom poms and like you
Yeah.
shake them. So it's like that's what in unison. The crowd, the student section especially, would just do that to Mr. Brightside, and it was really cool.
Mr. Brightside. We actually I got a group sing it a cappella when the band got cut off when they were done, and then they cut off the mics, but it didn't stop our passion. This is a different wedding. I got 3 actually that jumped to my mind real quickly. The one is Gimme Gimme, ABBA. I'm all on that one. Honestly, and I don't want to hear anybody say anything otherwise. I love that song. Play That Funky Music gets me going as well. And All Star by Smash. All Star
is good.
And there's
Smash Mouth
so
brings
many.
me back.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer too. That's not at a wedding, but like that was like the Shrek soundtrack.
Yeah.
Soundtrack.
And I'll even say for poppy songs, Believe by Cher. That gets going. I get in my feels. Guys, I'm an emotional person.
Listen, we might have some questionable playlists here, but it's okay. We listen to what we listen to. It is what it is.
We like a lot of music, but we want to hear what you guys like.
On my playlist though, like if I'm talking like gym playlist or like my favorite like go-to playlist, I'll listen to any type of music. So like I don't like strictly like pop, I don't strictly like rap, don't strictly like rock or country. I will listen to whatever. Like my gym playlist is the craziest thing in the world. I have like what is it? Cuz I like to kind of lift to like heavy music because it like pumps you up a little bit. But like if I go through all right, pull up your playlist real quick before we go. Like my cuz I know you got to drive back to DC. But I have like on my gym playlist, I'll go through some right now. I have like Rob Zombie, Slipknot, Papa Roach, Linkin Park, but then I also have, hold on. I have like Drake. I have Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, you diversify it.
I have Metallica, Motley Crue, Migos.
I think I've
Luke
made
Combs.
I've made like 4 or 5 different playlists, and I just would switch them if it goes in the move. Like I have like a rap one. I have house music, and then I have like a strict pop one. I have like a throwback 90s 2000s. I have some 70s 80s. Like you name it, I'm right there with you. I will say some like super heavy metal songs do scare me a little bit.
They scare me too, but they scare me in a good way. Like if I hear like there's this one, it's called like Counting Worms.
What?
And it's dude, it's like if you I don't know if like I don't want to get copyright in trouble for this, but like the beginning of it is just like crazy. And it's
I'm a little terrified.
It's definitely terrifying, but it's that's what I'll throw on at the gym in the headphones, and it's just like, why are you listening? It's by Knocked Loose. It's called Counting Worms.
Well, I might go listen to that for about 2 seconds.
Yeah, you'd probably like, yeah.
Lady, you're scaring us.
You're
That's
scaring
how I
us.
feel.
Some sloppy joes. Yeah, but those, share us your music taste. We, I like anything. I don't knock anyone for not liking certain genres, but I will literally listen to anything. If I hate it, I'll tell you. But for the most part, I like all types of music. So, all right.
All right.
Well, hey,
everyone. thank you for putting up with us again for another week.
We just talk. We just ramble.
We do ramble. But again, whatever you guys want to talk, we're going to bring back the mailbag, the Rip and Rock mailbag. We're going to bring back. Please tell us your songs, anything you want us to talk about as well. And I'll see if I can do this part right then. So you can find us on any of the podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube, you name it. If it's available on a podcast platform, you can listen to us. I'm at Ryan Ripken on Twitter and Instagram. Rocco is at Rocco DeSangro on Twitter. R DeSangro on Instagram. Go check out some hot pics of him. And then, what? No hot pics?
No hot pics.
No, okay. Well, they're coming soon. And I think that's it for this one. Just have a great week, everyone. Thanks for putting up with us, Rock.
Yeah, thanks for putting up with us, dealing with us week in and week out. Like Brian said, share your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in to a brand new episode of Rip and Rock. I know the episodes have been dropping in weird days lately, not strictly on Monday, but we're going to get back to that Monday routine coming up, and we'll let you guys know if we're going to change anything up. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next week.